Hi, my name is Joel Greene. I am the author of the Immunity Code and founder of the Veep Nutrition System, and today we're going to talk about a very special bacteria called Akkermansia Muciniphila. And it is central to human health, and what you're going to learn today is how to get your body to make more of it. Almost 2 years ago, I published the Immunity Code, and the very first thing in the book was talking about a key bacteria called Akkermansia Muciniphila. And the thing about Akkermansia Muciniphila that we have to understand is that it is intimately entwined with human health and directly correlated to being lean. And without Akkermansia, it's very difficult to be healthy. And with Akkermansia, what we see is that it correlates highly with the leanest, healthiest, longest lived humans. So the question about Akkermansia is, what is it, what does it do, and how do you get your body to make more of it? So let's start with what it is. So Akkermansia is kind of in its own phyla. It's part of what's called the Verrucomicrobia, and the Verrucomicrobia, excuse me. And it is what's called a mucin forager. Mucin forager means that it eats mucus. So it lives on an all-protein diet, and the proteins it likes are what are found in what you would consider to be saliva. So if you think about it this way, for example, in your mouth makes mucus, and there's bacteria that live in your mouth. Well, think of that same thing going on in the gut. Your gut has a mucus layer. That mucus layer in the gut is the body's primary protection from the outside world. So what Akkermansia does is it eats mucins, it breaks them down, and it leaves the gut lining, the gut mucus layer, extremely healthy in doing that. And it has an extraordinary capacity to break down these mucin proteins. Now, the thing to understand about Akkermansia is it doesn't like dietary protein. It prefers protein or mucins that are secreted internally, so mucus secretions. And this takes us in a certain direction. So the first thing to understand about Akkermansia is that it's very difficult to feed through diet. You can replete it with fasting, and there are things dietarily that we can do to influence it. One of those things is what's known as human milk oligosaccharides. Human milk oligosaccharides are what are known as glycans, glycoproteins. They are mostly carbohydrates bound to protein that come in mother's milk. And so in mother's milk, we get our starter dough of Akkermansia, and we get these human milk oligosaccharides, and Akkermansia loves these things. It breaks them down. And the net of it is, when we feed the body these human milk oligosaccharides and Akkermansia proliferates, we see a number of very fascinating things. One is that the surface area of the gut contracts, and we tend to harvest fewer calories from the diet. We see that the gut mucus layer gets nice and thick and strong, and so we tend to see fewer things penetrate the gut, fewer things that open up what you would call leaky gut. And Akkermansia correlates very well inversely to obesity, meaning when we see obese populations, they just don't have a lot of it. And when we see lean people, they have abundant Akkermansia. And it also correlates very well with populations of bifidobacteria in the gut. And you find these two bacteria are very complementary to one another. They kind of converge on the same pathways. So some of the ways that you can feed Akkermansia besides the human milk oligosaccharides, as I mentioned, fasting will feed it. We look at polyphenols in the diet, things like apple skins, apple peel powder will feed it. We look at things like cranberry extract, pomegranate extract. So there are a few things dietarily that feed it. There are also a few things dietarily that suppress it. Very high protein diets will suppress Akkermansia because, again, it prefers to get its protein from internally secreted mucus. When you have high protein, very high protein in the diet, what happens is other species get advantaged, and then you create disadvantages for Akkermansia. So that doesn't mean that you can't have periods, where you take in a lot of protein to gain some muscle mass. It just means that on the whole, over the long term, that we need to have sort of a balance in the diet to make sure this bacteria is being properly fed. And so those are just some of the ways you can make Akkermansia. Other ways, metformin will spin up Akkermansia. You can even look at berberine. And so when we look at Akkermansia and how to feed it, combination therapy is kind of what works best. So you combine a little bit of HMOs, a little bit of red phenols, a little bit of apple peels, and cycle those things in and out of the diet periodically. So every couple months, go on those for a little while. Keeps those populations healthy.